Hello guys, I'm Tom, and today we'll dive into who Victor Crowley is. One of the most underrated, coolest, most powerful, and terrifying killers of the modern horror genre is Victor Crowley, also known simply as the Monster, the Swamp Killer, or the Butcher of the Swamp. This character serves as the main villain in the Hatchet film series and is truly an unstoppable supernatural force, brutal and merciless. Victor Crowley is not, in fact, a human killer, but rather a revenant spirit that can take physical form, embodying vengeance. That's why he appears and prowls the swamps near Honey Island in Louisiana, as well as the surrounding areas where he lived during his lifetime. Due to his fascinating and strange origins, his power and brutality, and the fact that he brought a classic slasher killer into modern horror cinema, slightly refreshing the genre, Victor Crowley is regarded as one of the most memorable monstrous killers, though not as well known to casual audiences. That's why in this video, I'll explain in detail the history and origins of Victor Crowley from the Hatchet saga. To do so, I'll present a chronological summary of his origin, then discuss his physical appearance, what we know about his personality and behavior, what he truly is, and his incredible abilities and known weaknesses. Victor Crowley, the Butcher of the Swamp or the Hatchet Monster, is a legendary killer and the primary antagonist of the Hatchet films. His origins are revealed throughout the original trilogy via various stories told by the locals and through flashbacks, which, with each film, offer a bit more information about his backstory prior to the events depicted in the movies. Approximately 40 years before the events of the fourth film, there was a man named Thomas Crowley who lived in the Honey Island swamp community in Louisiana. He was married to a young woman named Cheyenne, and they were a happy couple, though they were unable to have children. Unfortunately, Cheyenne fell gravely ill with stomach cancer, prompting Thomas to hire a nurse named Lena to care for her and help while he worked. As Cheyenne's illness progressed rapidly, she became bedridden and immobile. During this time, Lena and Thomas began a romantic relationship behind Cheyenne's back, and Thomas ended up getting Lena pregnant. One day, Cheyenne got out of bed and caught Lena and Thomas kissing in the kitchen of their home. Although they both begged for forgiveness, Cheyenne, feeling betrayed and furious, recited an old voodoo curse she knew from her life in the swamp and the Honey Island community. She cursed Lena and the unborn baby, the result of their betrayal. After Cheyenne's death, Lena unexpectedly gave birth at Thomas's house in the swamp. It's said that at that moment, all the swamp's usual noise stopped. There was an eerie silence, and all the animals near the house suddenly died. After seeing the baby, Lena also died. Thomas, consumed by grief, named the baby Victor. Initially, he hid the child to conceal his affair with Lena, but despite Victor being born deformed, with tumors and some form of mental impairment, Thomas developed a deep bond with him and came to love him dearly. Over time, Thomas protected Victor from the other children in the village, who mocked and bullied him for his deformities. Thomas decided it was best to keep Victor inside the house. However, on one fateful Halloween night, Thomas went into town, leaving Victor alone. Some children set off fireworks at the house to scare Victor and force him outside, but they accidentally caused a fire. The wooden house quickly went up in flames, leaving Victor trapped and terrified. When Thomas returned, he tried to rescue his son by breaking down the door with a hatchet. Tragically, he didn't realize that Victor was pressed against the other side of the door. As he broke through, the hatchet's blade struck Victor in the head, killing him instantly. Thomas, filled with rage and despair, blamed the children who had caused the fire. But this was only the beginning of his tragedy, as this event marked the birth of the monster Victor Crowley would become. The children ran away, and when Thomas went to town to confront their parents, the boys denied everything and hid behind them, which is why they weren't truly punished. After this, Thomas fell into a deep depression over the loss of his son Victor, and became a recluse, only leaving his cabin to buy supplies and food. 10 years after Victor's tragic death, Thomas died of a heart attack inside his cabin, consumed by sadness and rage. Shortly after his father's death, Victor Crowley was supernaturally resurrected as a vengeful spirit, seeking retribution for his own death and for his father's. This is why Victor returned so brutally, trapped in an endless fury. He began murdering anyone who ventured into the swamp at night and approached his father's old house, where he had grown up. As many people in the Honey Island community used to visit the swamp at night and began disappearing under mysterious circumstances, the locals started avoiding the area. It was said that the figure of a very large, strong man could be seen prowling the swamp at night. They claimed it was Victor Crowley himself, who, according to rumors, had not fully died. These tales and rumors created a legendary and feared figure in the swamp and the Honey Island area. For this reason, the locals took many precautions to avoid entering the swamp or going near its surroundings. However, some outsiders and opportunists, looking to make easy money, began offering nighttime tours of the swamp, ignoring the community's warnings and prohibitions. In the Hatchet film trilogy, we see Victor Crowley brutally defending his territory. In the first film, two men, a father and his son, are hunting crocodiles at night in the swamp and are suddenly killed by Victor Crowley after ignoring local warnings and legends. 2 days after the murder of Samson Dunstan and his son Ainsley, an illegal swamp tour takes place involving Mary Beth Dunstan, the daughter and sister of the slain men. She joins the tour to find out what happened to them and whether they are still alive, as she had heard and believed in the legend of Victor Crowley. During the tour, the boat gets stuck on large rocks, and a torrential downpour typical of the swamp's tropical climate begins. Everyone disembarks from the boat, and although Mary Beth warns the group about Victor Crowley and what happened to her father and brother, no one listens to her. This leads Victor to start killing the tour members one by one, leaving Mary Beth and a young man named Ben as the last survivors. However, Victor eventually kills Ben and captures Mary Beth. In the second film, Mary Beth wounds Victor Crowley by injuring one of his eyes and manages to escape. A swamp local helps her, but upon learning her last name, tells her to leave. Shortly afterward, Victor arrives and brutally murders the man. Mary Beth returns to the town of Honey Island, where she enlists the help of a man known as Reverend Zombie, played by the talented Tony Todd. He tells her to bring her uncle that night, while he recruits local hunters to finish Victor Crowley once and for all, though he has hidden motives. That night, Victor begins hunting down the hunters one by one. Eventually, Reverend Zombie reveals to Mary Beth that he planned to lure Trent, the hunter, and Bob, her supposed uncle, because he believes that if Victor kills these individuals, who were responsible for his and his father's deaths, his spirit will finally rest in peace. However, Mary Beth confesses that Bob is not her biological uncle and wasn't present on that fateful night. In fact, her real uncle died years ago from an illness. When Victor learns the truth, he brutally murders Reverend Zombie. Mary Beth takes advantage of the distraction, grabs Victor's hatchet, and strikes him forcefully in the head, facing the monster decisively. Later, Mary Beth shoots him point blank with a shotgun and flees the area, leaving Victor apparently dead. However, as we see in the third movie, while Mary Beth tries to escape, Victor supernaturally regenerates quickly and rises again. He attempts to attack her, but Mary Beth uses Victor's chainsaw to kill him once more. After this, she manages to escape the swamp and reaches the town of Honey Island, where she reports the events of the swamp and the massacre caused by Victor Crowley to the police. In response to her statements, the police send a special team and paramedics to investigate the area. Upon discovering multiple corpses, they arrest Mary Beth and detain her in the local jail, despite her insistence on her innocence. The entire police force, along with the sheriff, is sent to the swamp, leaving only Officer Winslow at the station. At this moment, a reporter and investigator named Amanda, an expert on the Victor Crowley case, visits Mary Beth to interview her. Amanda explains that Victor is cursed to relive the night of his death over and overdue to a spell, and that he will only stop if he achieves what he truly wants: to reunite with his father, Thomas. She also reveals that Victor is a repeater spirit, and that Marybeth is the only one capable of stopping him, since her father, Samson, was involved in the fire that caused Victor's death as a child. When night falls, Victor Crowley's body, placed in an ambulance, comes back to life and starts killing everyone present. Although the police, armed to the teeth, try to fight him, Victor easily eliminates them. Hearing about the massacre over the radio, Amanda convinces Officer Winslow to release Marybeth to put an end to all this once and for all. Winslow agrees, but before heading to the swamp, they visit a distant cousin of Thomas Crowley, who possesses Thomas's ashes. The three then head to the swamp with the ashes. There, they confront Victor, and Amanda expresses her regret for what happened to him and his father, showing him Thomas's ashes. Victor halts the massacre and quickly approaches Marybeth to take the ashes. However, Officer Winslow, believing it to be an attack, shoots Victor, enraging him. In his fury, Victor brutally kills both Winslow and Amanda. He then attacks Marybeth, impaling her against a tree. Before he can kill her, Marybeth smashes the urn containing Thomas's ashes over Victor's head, causing his body to begin melting. Finally, Marybeth grabs a shotgun and shoots Victor, killing him for good. The National Guard arrives at the scene, rescuing the last surviving paramedic, Andrew, along with a severely injured but alive Marybeth. In the last Victor Crowley movie, released in 2018, we follow Andrew, who has gained fame after writing a book about his experience with Victor Crowley. He now gives interviews on television shows. His manager proposes that he return to Honey Island to film a special, offering him $1 million. Although Andrew initially refuses due to his trauma, he eventually agrees. Along with a film crew, they travel in a private plane to Honey Island. But the plane crashes in the swamp while flying over the area. Meanwhile, a group of independent filmmakers is shooting a trailer about Victor Crowley. To make it more authentic, the director plays a compilation of YouTube videos that include a voodoo spell to resurrect Victor. Amid the commotion of the plane crash, they leave the phone playing the spell on a loop. When night falls, this resurrects Victor Crowley, unleashing another massacre. Although he is seemingly killed again at the end, the spell that awakened him suggests he will return. The film concludes with Marybeth watching the news about more bodies being found in the swamp, unrelated to the plane crash. Preparing to face Victor Crowley one last time, she arms herself, and thus ends the story of Victor Crowley. Now, speaking of his physical appearance, Victor Crowley has a unique and terrifying look. He is a burly, muscular, and tall man, standing approximately 1.9 meters, 6 feet 3 inches, tall, and weighing over 120 kilograms, 265 pounds. He always wears blue overalls without a shirt underneath, exposing his chest and arms, along with black boots. His most memorable and horrifying feature is his face, deformed by numerous tumors, giving him a chilling appearance. He also has noticeable lumps on his shoulders, and still bears the axe wound on his forehead that his father accidentally inflicted when he killed him as a child. Victor's right eye appears completely white, giving him a zombie-like appearance. He also has some long, black hair on the back of his head, but it seems to only grow there as the top of his head is bald. He typically carries a small, double-edged axe. All these features make him look incredibly terrifying and memorable. Victor Crowley's personality is quite complex. As a child, he was very shy due to the deformities on his face, so he preferred to play and spend time only with his father. Interestingly, after his and his father's deaths, he became a very angry and vengeful spirit, killing anyone who crosses into the swamp. He often roars fiercely. As a repeater spirit, he is trapped in the night of his death, so he believes he's only defending himself and thinks all the people he encounters are against him. Despite being violent and aggressive, it's implied that he retains a childlike personality. For example, he refers to his father as Daddy, This seems to be what keeps a small fragment of his humanity, as when confronted in the third film with his father's ashes, he calms down, falls silent, and sighs. It isn't until he is accidentally shot that he feels betrayed, leading him to attack again. This shows that, despite being ruthless and brutal, Victor is a tragic figure with a personality that, to some extent, resembles that of a small child. Victor Crowley is a supernatural being with unique powers, making him a type of revenant. For this reason, he is almost impossible to defeat. Firstly, he possesses superhuman physical strength, far greater than that of any strong human of his size. This strength allows him to tear off limbs with ease and wield his weapons with great efficiency. He is immortal. While he can be defeated or seemingly killed, he regenerates quickly and recovers from all his wounds supernaturally. He has incredible endurance and durability, allowing him to withstand attacks and headshots without stopping, though they may hurt or injure him slightly. Additionally, he has superior physical conditioning. He never tires from running or fighting for long periods since, as a spirit that takes physical form, he has infinite energy. He also possesses a type of clairvoyance that allows him to detect and quickly locate his victims within the swamp, an area he knows perfectly. Moreover, his senses are enhanced, especially his hearing, enabling him to hear his victims even if they hide very well, such as in the trees of the swamp. Victor is also an expert in using his weapons, which include an axe, a chainsaw, and a special sander, and he uses them in efficient, brutal, and unexpected ways. However, despite these incredible abilities, Victor Crowley has some significant weaknesses. He can only appear at night in the swamp. During the day, his spirit rests and is completely inactive. His father's ashes seem to have the power to force him to rest in peace, causing his body to melt and defeating him definitively, at least until someone recites the voodoo spell that can resurrect him. Additionally, he can be gravely injured through conventional means, such as being shot or having his head destroyed with an axe. While this only renders him inactive for a few minutes before he regenerates, it can be considered a weakness because it allows his victims to escape. Lastly, mentioning his father seems to make him remember his humanity, momentarily stopping him for a few seconds. As a fun fact, the talented actor and stuntman Kane Hodder, who portrayed Jason starting from the 7th Friday the 13th movie, also plays Victor Crowley. Because of this, both characters share similar bulk, agility, and brutality when attacking. That's all we know about Victor Crowley from the Hatchet franchise. Honestly, this slasher killer is one of my favorites, and it was about time we covered him on the channel. I hope you enjoyed this analysis and explanation of this memorable yet underrated horror movie killer. I love how brutal he is throughout the films, and I also like that he's a killer similar to Jason, taking inspiration from the mythical killer from Crystal Lake, but differentiating himself through his origins and story. His design has always seemed very cool and terrifying to me, especially because of the tumors and deformities that remind us a bit of the killers from The Hills Have Eyes and the cannibals from Wrong Turn. It's because of his impressive design, his power and brutality, and his interesting story that I consider Victor Crowley one of the best modern slashers, on par with Art the Clown from Terrifier. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Were you already familiar with Victor Crowley and his story? Do you think we'll see him on screen again, or is his story truly over? Share your answers and your opinion about this killer from the Hatchet movies. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed it, give it a like, share it to support the channel, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of my new videos.